Alright, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on this knife. As you can see, this is a Winkler Knives fixed blade. We'll see what it is in just a second. As always, don't forget to check out my social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even Tumblr at Knife Thoughts, and go to knifethoughts.com for the full articles on these knives. Lots of great pictures and links to my social media. And don't forget to subscribe by entering your email. But this knife was loaned to me by my friend Dave. It's a really cool one. I've always wanted to get to see a Winkler knife. Winkler knives kind of became popular initially because he made the knives, or at least some of the knives, for the movie The Last of the Mohicans. And I actually grew up watching that movie because my dad was always a big... he kind of did a lot of research on local and general Native American history, and especially that time period. And he was a huge, huge fan of that movie. So I've watched that movie many, many times, probably starting younger than most would recommend watching that movie. But, and it's one that I've always, it's a nostalgic movie for me, and one that I still enjoy watching. And that's where Winkler knives kind of became popular. As he might have even made some, I believe he made some tomahawks for the movie also. But either way, he kind of became known from that. And then I think because of that, some Navy SEALs started commissioning knives from him for use, in their work. In the military, overseas and stuff like that. So then that kind of became something that people knew about, the fact that Navy SEALs used Winkler knives, and they've become, more and more popular because of that. So let's open it up. So as you can see, this is a push dagger. So pull it out here. Comes with a little info sheet. Comes with a really nice sticker. I really like this nice simple design that Winkler Knives is using with the tomahawks and the WK. Really nice sticker. And then little card here with some contact info and everything like that. So that's always nice. And then shows who inspected the knife and the number. So that way you can contact them if you have any issues and stuff like that. And then it also comes with this kind of explanation. So you can see that it's 80 CRV2 steel, which is a good steel. I don't know exactly which steel is the best comparison for it, but it's a good steel. It's one that you can look up online, see reviews on blade forums and things like that. It does, as you can see, have a black oxide treatment, so it's not a Cerakote or something like that, but you'll see when I take it out that it's a pretty nice finish. I think it will take on that antique appearance. There's not really any imperfections, but it's interesting that they throw that in there with the steel wool. You can see that this must be used for several different models, because this one has a micarta handle. So it says wood, micarta, and G10, but this has micarta, and then it has some maintenance things. So pretty nice. And then on the back here, this kind of gives some of the story of Daniel Winkler. So if you want to pause this and read this, you certainly can. But here's the knife. So as you can see, it is a push dagger. I have never actually owned a push dagger. So this is, I think, this is the first kind of traditional push dagger I've seen. I've seen some knives made by Bantang that are his universal tool, I think is what it's called. But this is the first kind of traditional push dagger with the T handle shape that I've had. So you can see that it comes with clearly, handmade Kydex sheath. It's not like Bolteron or something like that. It's a, fitted to this knife Kydex sheath, which is nice. And then you can see it also comes with this clip. This is from a company called Discreet Carry Solutions, I believe. You can find them on Instagram and stuff. I've actually had several people recommend these to me. The person who does our self-defense at the gym that I work at, it's called Anti-Fragile Training, and I believe the person who he trains with, ShivWorks, also often uses these, as well as Dark Star Gear, which is a holster and sheath maker who I know who does great work. I believe he recommends these. So check these out. And the reason for that is because, as you can see, it has this lip, and that's really the innovation here. So that, you know, you lift this up and slide it onto your belt or even your pocket. I carried it on both. And this is gonna hold it on, and not only is that gonna hold it on, but when you go to pull this knife out, rather than just sliding off like honestly most clips like this do, it's gonna catch on that lip, and that's gonna actually bend so that it catches into, you know, the material, whether it be a belt or you know, your clothing, rather than just fail and slide off. So normally it won't bend. Normally you'll just pull it out and it'll be fine. But if you had trouble, you know, accessing it or getting it out, this I think is a better design from Discreet Carry Solutions than some other ones where, you know, it can slide off or the clasp can come undone and things like that. So that's a nice touch. I think that it's the right option for this knife. I think that it's set up nicely. You could put it on either side. You could also carry this as a neck knife, although I don't like carrying knives as neck knives, so I wouldn't do that. But it definitely would be an option. And if you did have another one of these, you could put it on and you'd get really, really solid retention. Anyway, let's look at the knife itself. So one thing, as you can see right now, and this is brand new. I mean, this came from my friend Dave. I don't think he carried it at all. I'm not sure, but it's definitely brand new. It is a little bit rough pulling from the sheath right now. So, you know, you slide it in and it slides in well. It does have good retention, but then it seems that the two edges kind of catch. So I don't think that it's how I'm putting it in the sheath. I think that it just catches a little bit, and you have to kind of work its way out. One thing, as you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see that right there, I think it will wear in a little bit. You can see where the Kydex is kind of sliding along those edges. So I think it will wear in a little bit and will become easier to, you know, draw from the sheath. But honestly, that's one of those things where I actually find that I do prefer a stronger retention, especially on a knife like this. That's you know, this is a knife made for self-defense and really nothing else. I do prefer a stronger retention. I've found that some knives, like the Spyderco Reverse, came with a sheath that, you know, you can tighten it down, but the initial retention was a little bit lighter than I wanted. So it's, you know, I would tighten it down. But on this one, you can't tighten it down because it's riveted. But because of that, it's, you know, nice that it has strong retention. Like I say, I do think, and I think it would be, there we go. So as long as you have a good hold on that, it does come out nicely. So strong retention, it does catch a little bit on, you know, if you can see those two areas right there, a little bit sometimes. But if you pull it straight out, it seems like it's actually getting better as I speak here. Oh, so there's construction going on next door, so there's a little noise from that. Hopefully it doesn't go on the whole time I make this video. But so to move on to the knife itself, you can see it says Winkler Knives. It has that black oxide finish, and I think the finish is nice looking. It does have a less modern look, more almost like a blued look than something like Cerakote, which I think fits the Winkler Knives aesthetic and this knife pretty well. I think that it looks good with this finish, and this finish will help with you know, rust resistance, but also, again, like the tacticalness, right? So it's non-glare, non-reflective. As for the grind, it looks pretty even. You can see it has that really nice arrowhead shape, which again kind of goes with the aesthetic of Winkler knives. I'm gonna move these so you can see the shape a little bit better there. So it has that really nice arrow shape, and you can see that it is a double edge. So it's a saber grind to both sides. Some push daggers are chisel ground, where they're only ground on one edge. This is not. This is ground on both sides. I'm sorry, only ground on one side. This is not. This is ground on both sides. So, you know, it makes for a nice classic spear point blade. on both sides. So you can put it in either way. I assume that this is the correct way to put it in the sheath, but I think either way is gonna work fine. Ooh, let's see, now it's catching a little bit. There we go. So really nice classic push dagger type blade shape with that spear point. You know, well suited to fit your fingers in here. Nice thick blade stock, as you can see too. Right around maybe 1/4 of an inch, I'd say. So gonna be solid if you do, you know, have to use this. It's not gonna snap off or anything crazy like that. So I like the blade shape. I think it's a really great blade shape for what this is, which is a push dagger. And I think that the handle is nice also. Now, one thing I noticed about the handle is, I don't know if it's intended, but it's really right away when I saw it, it reminded me of like a Mjolnir pendant, like the hammer, right? I don't know if that's intended or not. It doesn't really fit with the rest of the aesthetic as far as I know, but it certainly looks like that. Maybe I'm just seeing that. Maybe it's more coming from me than from the knife, but either way, it has these 2 scallops for your fingers, and then it has a really big palm swell back here. Now, the owner of this knife said that he actually doesn't prefer it here, but rather prefers the knife between the index and the middle finger. Sorry, my hands are a little bit dirty. I was just pulling weeds out of my garden. I actually agree with that pretty strongly. I think a lot of push daggers, or most, seem to be designed for this, but this feels actually a lot better here. And the reason for that is, as you can see, this finger fits right into this scallop, and then my thumb can, you know, like a real punching grip or punching fist, with your thumb below your fingers like this, the thumb actually sits into this little scallop, and you know, makes it so that really locks in there. I mean, you can see in this grip, it's pretty straightforward out of that middle knuckle, whereas in this grip, you can see it's got a little bit of that like cant towards the outside, which I think if you were to use this and punch, you know, forward on something, it could knock it to the side a little bit. So I really do agree with the owner there on that. I think that this is better suited to grip between the index and middle fingers. You can get your thumb below this, and it would obviously work, you know, either direction. And in this grip, it feels pretty good. Because it has this palm swell and the finger scallops, it feels like it locks into your hand really well. As you can see, it does have some scalloping on the scales themselves. Looks like they're pinned in with G10 pins. But I don't know how much that's going to do. I think more so it's the shape of the handle that you know, will make it stay in your hand. But they look nice, so that's not a bad thing. Now, I don't like the grip as much in the middle, between the middle and ring fingers. The reason for that is these fingers sit in the scallops, but then the index and pinky fingers kind of hit right on these bumps here. So, although you could certainly hold it like this if you grabbed it out of the sheath, you know, if you had to pull it out quickly, this grip would work fine, I think. I do think that this grip is better suited for the knife and better suited for a punching fist, a punching grip. So the handle feels well in those grips. I think it would feel a little bit better if this area and this area, these 2 edges, were rounded a little bit more, just to kind of take off the bite of that edge on your fingers. But again, when you grip it, it's not something where you're going to be using this knife for a long period to cut cardboard or something like that, or cut wood, so that those sharp edges would matter and create hot spots. This is a knife that's purely designed for self-defense. You're not going to use this as a utility knife. So it doesn't really matter. Those hot spots aren't going to matter. If you're using this knife, you're not going to be worrying about those slightly, sharp edges on the post area there. So I think that that's more of a reviewer's or a collector's complaint than it is a user's complaint. And even at that, it's not a big one. So overall, I think it's a really nice knife. Like I say, that 880 CRV2, I have never used that steel, 80 CRV2. and I don't know that much about it other than I know I've heard that it's good. So you can look into that yourself. But again, on something like this where this isn't a utility knife, you're not going to be using it to do a bunch of wood carving or cardboard cutting, the steel is going to matter less than the fact that it's a sturdy, well-designed blade with a handle that's easy to grab out of the sheath and easy to grip in this fist grip. So I think that for its intended purpose, this Winkler Knives Punch Dagger is really well designed. I think it's really nice that it comes with this well-made sheath that seems to be breaking in, kind of as I speak here, and this nice discrete carry solutions clip. So again, real easy to pull out in this classic punch grip between the index and middle fingers, and just a really nice knife, a really well-made knife, well thought out for its intended purpose knife that I'm happy to have gotten the chance to check out. And one thing that the owner mentioned and kind of wanted me to mention is that Winkler Knives they support military and I believe police and everything also. So they do have a discount for members of the military and armed forces, and I believe also police. So that was something that the owner of this knife appreciated. I think it was a pretty good discount, and something that I think is a good thing that Winkler does, because this is the kind of knife that really, you can get it for your collection and it can be a cool knife in your collection, but I think this is a knife that's best owned by someone who's going to put it on their belt or in their pocket or in their vest, and have it as a backup that they can easily get to and get in their hand and help keep them safe and alive if they need to. And I think that it would do well in that use. So again, this is a Winkler Knives Punch Dagger. Big thanks again to Dave for loaning that to me. And again, don't forget to go to knifethoughts.com, check out the articles and subscribe by entering your email. Go to @KnifeThoughts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr to check out my social media. And don't forget to go out and do good.